We have to say this every single time. This on our main card of UFC 253, and flyweights never die, as we have Kai Kara-France representing City Kickboxing. And no, he's not the first City Kickboxing fighter on this card, and he won't be the last. And he's taken on a really tough out in Brandon Royval. And Matt, Royval, coming out of Factory X, really impressed in a short notice UFC debut against Tim Elliott. And I'm going to let you take over from here, because we have a little term that we use with Fight Night Picks, and you used it in that prediction for the Royval-Elliott fight. I'm pretty sure we both had picked Brandon Royval to get the win. Lo and behold, Brandon Royval gets the win. But what exactly happened in that fight?
Well, Tim Elliott basically just got ragdolled, and we had no idea how good Brandon Royval was. That's really, I can honestly say that was my prediction going into that fight, because Tim Elliott, you know what you're going to get. There's those crazy scrambles, but with those crazy scrambles, he exerts a lot of energy. So if you can just kind of outlast him and keep the fight at a high pace for sure, but just keep on flowing, keep on scrambling, and kind of play into his game, you can wear him out. And the fact that Brandon Royval not only was able to outstrike, out wrestle, and out grapple Tim Elliott, I think that was the most important part of that fight, because Tim Elliott, he's just good at everything. So it's really hard to be better than him at everything. Sometimes you might be better than him at striking, but he has the wrestling edge, or you might be better at wrestling, but he has the striking edge. The fact that Brandon Royval went out there on short notice and was able to kind of put everything together, get him in that beautiful arm triangle, it was just really impressive to go there on short notice, beat a grappler with a submission like that. And Kai Kara-France, who we've mentioned it a few times, how it's better when a guy comes into the UFC who has a bit of a salty record, but at least the guys who they fought were a high caliber outside of the UFC. And Kai Kara-France is a pretty good example of that.
So let me go down through that list, because there might be some people that you might not recognize, but in his sixth pro fight, he took on Danilo Batgarel, that we now know in the UFC. I mean, he's 1-1, but had a great knockout win over Guido Canetti here somewhat recently. He lost to Haile Alatang in his debut. He's got a fight against Mark Striegel, who was supposed to be coming in and fighting Timur Valiev not that long ago. Striegel out, but I'm sure we'll see him in the UFC sometime soon. So there's another one you go up through. He lost to Alexandre Pantoja over on The Ultimate Fighter. Then he went from that fight over to Risen, whatever you may say, and lost to Tatsumitsu Wada, who you might not recognize, but if you know Tatsumitsu, he had a fight against Demetrius Johnson over with one championship, and it was incredibly competitive. So if you go down through that, Rodolfo Marx, there's another one. And then you look at his run so far in the UFC, beats Elias Garcia, beats Raulian Paiva, controversial split decision, beats Mark De La Rosa. Okay, that's probably going to happen. Loses to the Assassin Baby, who I'd said is probably going to be the champ at flyweight before the end of the year.
But that hype train.
Listen, it's unfortunate because you might have Cody Garbrandt as your champ before the end of the year. So 2021 is the year of Brandon Moreno, even though 2020 has been pretty good to him. And then you look at Kai Kara-France, and he picks up a big win over Tyson Nam in his last fight. And you might think Tyson Nam at that point was kind of a throwaway. Like, you know, you lose to Pettis, you lose to Kai Kara-France. Well, what's left for you? Look at his last two wins. And I know they're not against the best competition, but Tyson Nam looking pretty darn good over Jerome Rivera and Zaruk Adeshev. So for a win, or to have a win over Tyson Nam, and I mean, yeah, it was back in February, that definitely holds quite a bit of water. Now, he was booked against Alex Perez back in May. That event obviously canceled. So now you drop Brandon Royval. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the pedigree of jiu-jitsu certainly lies in the corner of Royval. But in this one, it's so interesting because Kai Kara-France, he's kind of like that Tim Elliott 2.0. He's good in the scrambles. He's half decent at wrestling. You know how good his striking is, especially representing City Kickboxing. I'm sure they have bad strikers there. You gotta put lipstick on a pig sometimes. But in terms of this overall fight, I think it should be highly competitive. And with Brandon Royval, you know, you're talking strength of schedule, and the opponents that he's faced on the regional scene in the States, they haven't been all that bad. One name that I've already mentioned, Tyson Nam's last opponent, Jerome Rivera. Brandon Royval has a win over him, although you can't really call it a win because Rivera fell backwards and broke his fall by breaking his elbow. But apart from that, win over Joby Sanchez, win over Nate Williams, had a lot of success on the regional scene. And then again, that win over Tim Elliott in a fight where he looked quite good. And it has been a little bit since we've seen him just over 3 months ago, bridging on 4 months. Overall, Matt, in terms of ceilings for both of these guys, and I know this kind of strays away from the prediction side of things, do you think either one of these guys is top 10, top 5 material in the UFC?
I mean, I'm pretty sure whoever wins this will just automatically be in the top 10 because flyweight has about 12 fighters right now. But I think Kai France can be around for a while. He has a skill set kind of similar to an Ian Heinisch. You had mentioned kind of that Tim Elliott 2.0, where just kind of good at everything. And yes, he comes from city kickboxing, so you would assume kind of his striking would be the highlight of his skill set. And he has good strikes, but he's another one of these guys who he's much more of a mixed martial artist than a kickboxer who is now an MMA fighter because he will go for the takedown. He's got really nice takedown defense. Good cardio too. He's always got that sort of just going forward. He kind of stays in the 7 throughout the fight. There's never this big dump in his output. There's never a big increase in his output as the fight goes on. Just kind of stays this constant. And the key to this fight is defend the takedowns of Brandon Royval. If Kai France can keep it on the feet, he's the much more technical guy on the feet. He has the better cardio, especially in the striking department. So for Kai France, if you can keep this fight on the feet, I really don't see how he loses.
And I mean, if you're Brandon Royval, you get that on the mat, it could certainly be lights out incredibly quickly. We know how slippery this guy is on the ground. Now, if we look over at the odds, Kai France open to -185. That line dropped about 20 points incredibly quickly, and now it's tapered off as the week's gone on. So he's a -238 according to best fight odds. If you look over at Brandon Royval, open to +160. It dropped, it went up, it moved around. He's a +190 at this point. And if you look over on Tapology to the total votes, 1,063, 77% have it for Kai France, 87% have it for decision. Now, I had said when Brandon Royval fought Tim Elliott, if you go back into the archives, I believe we had both picked Brandon Royval to win that fight as the underdog. So pat on the back, Matt. I don't have the Fight Night Pick'em trophy here with me abroad. I know I'm way ahead, so what does it even matter, right? No, I'm just kidding. But in terms of this fight, I'm definitely going to side with the favorite, and I think he's certainly going to be able to get it done. If he's able to win out in the scrambles, if he's able to keep it at least on the feet, he has a decided advantage there, and it should be a breeze to a decision win. But again, Brandon Royval gets to the ground. Pretty good shot. He's gonna leave with a limb.
Yeah, I just think Kai France kind of has the counter to everything Brandon Royval brings. Because Royval has that jiu-jitsu, but I'd say Kai France definitely has the better wrestling out of the two. So if Royval, he's going to have to drop Kai France to really be able to use the best part of his skill set, and I don't see that happening. So Kai France by decision is a pretty safe bet.
Matt, I'm really looking forward to this fight. We both have Kai France to get the win. You're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt, because you know what's next. We've got Jan Blachowicz taking on Dominick Reyes for the vacant UFC light heavyweight title. We also have Israel Adesanya looking to hold on to his middleweight crown against Paulo Costa as I lose an earbud. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. As we always say, let's get into it.